I didn't really start producing music until I was almost 30 years old. I moved out to LA at 29, about 28 or 29. When my best friend growing up, like from childhood, is also a producer. His name is Justin Raisin. He was working under Ariel Rechtshaid, who's also a producer. So I came up under Justin, and then we both sort of came up under Ariel. I learned like the skill set of Pro Tools and that kind of stuff from Justin. Watching Ariel work with the people that he was working with was super influential to me to understand. I mean, before I moved out to LA, I didn't even understand I didn't understand anything about songwriting or how, I mean, I used to write songs in my band, but it was very much so like you wrote a song and then you brought it to your band and we would hash it out in the studio. But like the whole process of pop songwriting and the development of that is a whole different world. And like learning that was really eye-opening, and also learning like even just like watching people bring like drum, kicks and snares and different sounds into a Pro Tools session and then use those as like the template of the song. Whereas like the only way I ever understood it until my late 20s was like you went in and you recorded drums, and that's how you made sounds. I didn't really even understand like the concept of like having like a sample library or like that kind of stuff. That it didn't make any sense to me. So I feel like, when I came out to LA, there was a massive learning curve of like how that kind of stuff was done. One thing that Ariel always said to me that kind of like has always resonated with me, and how I still make music to this day, is like making music for like posterity's sake. It's not about like following a trend or trying to work with like whoever's like the new popular artist or any of that kind of stuff. It's making music that you feel like will like live on for forever. And sometimes it doesn't mean that you can't like be drawing from like different eras of music. Obviously, like it's important to draw inspiration from places. With that in mind, you're not going like, oh, like what we just talked about before, like it needs to be loud because that's what's popular on playlists. You're like, well, who the fuck cares about playlists? Like people might not be listening to playlists in 5 years from now for all we know, or it needs to be like this sound because that's what people listen to today. It's like, I could care less to what people are listening to today. It's like, I just want to make music that I think sounds good and that I want to listen to, because at the end of the day, that's all you have is your own gut feeling. So I definitely feel like that was like really stuck with me, when I was starting to make music. This might sound cliche, but I think it's really important to have like a good work-life balance. My band was making our second album in 2006. I used to play in like an indie band called As Tall as Lions.
Sure, you get a deal, you got commercial appeal, but what you get, oh, it ain't ever what you get, what you get.
We made our second album. We were home, we were like in our early 20s, we were living with our parents, we were like broke. We would go to the studio every day, and like that was our job, was to make music. And like that's all I thought was like, I just gotta show up every day and something will happen. And then after a while, it just became this like little bubble that we lived in, where like we started writing songs about writing songs. And you write songs about being in a band, like my only experience was being there in that bubble. It's like you got to write from experience. Like, well, what am my experience? I get up in the morning, I get a coffee, and then I go to the studio and I see the same 3 people I see every day. And I'm not doing anything but those things. I remember my mother was like, you need a job, And I was like, this is my job. I do music, She's like, no, but you need a job. You need a real job. So anyway, I ended up like, after much reluctance and after the course of like a month of like meandering through like this recording of a second album that was going nowhere, got a job. And I was working at this vineyard out east on Long Island, and every day took me an hour to get there, and I would drive out in my car and I would listen to music, which was also really inspiring to just be in a car for an hour listening to music every day. And then I would go to this job, and I was like working in this wine bar, so I was just like talking to people every day. And in talking to people and being around other people every day, I was like busy every day. Like my mind was not thinking about music. It was just like busy living life. Then I all of a sudden became inspired to make music because I was actually not making music. And I found that to be like one of the most important lessons I ever had in life, was like, just because you're making music doesn't mean that that's all you have to do. In order to get inspired to make music, you need to do other things. My whole second record was written because I was busy doing something else. And I often find that like it's important for to tell other people that like if you're uninspired, like especially nowadays, I think everyone feels this pressure to like create. I gotta be in the studio. I gotta be making something. I gotta be like working hard at this thing. I kind of feel sort of the opposite of like, you gotta like kind of live life in order to like get in the studio and do something, because you're not gonna want to show up to the studio every day, you know? And I think that's really important, is to have that balance. I'm older now, but now I usually spend like every weekend with my kid and my wife. I try to leave the studio by 6 p.m. every day so I could have dinner with my wife and hang out with my kid, go out to dinner with friends, and just like live life, because being in the studios can only be so inspiring. I think when it comes to choosing songs, like for Olivia, like I'll go back to Sour. I think everyone could agree at the time that Driver's License felt like no one thought it was going to be as successful as it was, because how could you tell that? Everyone felt that it was special. Everyone knew that it was a special song. Her, the label, everyone was really on board with that as a single. And at the time, because she really didn't have like, it wasn't like she was this massive artist that was a household name, it was a little easier to pick a single in that sense. I definitely feel like making the second album with all the added pressure, the choosing of a single felt really heavy. Like, you know, like this is like, we're making the statement. I knew at the end of the day that we all really liked Vampire. Like we all were really into the song. And it felt like a good step forward in the process of putting out a new album. And I think we all felt confident, like we had made the song and then we played it for some, you know, as one does. Like you play it for your friends, you play it for your wife, you play it for people. And like, I remember we would play that song, people would get really excited, you know? And it's fun. Like, I mean, that's one of my favorite things about writing songs is like, I love writing really simple pop songs where like the chorus is what it is, and it's like none of it's like unexpected other than like, wow, that's a great feeling, you know? But Vampire is definitely like a journey. And that's kind of, those are my favorite songs to make, is the songs that take you on this like little odyssey, and like we like joke around that it's like kind of our little rock opera, you know, that we created. And it's always fun to like sit in the room, like in here on you know, because I've played this song for so many people when they sit on the couch back there. And it's fun to watch their face, you know, when the chorus hits, and then when the Fame Fucker line happens, and when the big hits happen after the bridge, you know, before the bridge. It's like one of the songs that you get these like, a first time listen is like a reaction. And I think that we wanted that sort of experience for her fans for the first listen. So in that sense, it felt very like confidently like the choice to go with for a first single. You know, did I think it was going to be a massive hit? I sure hoped it was going to be. I don't ever feel confident in saying that, oh, I can tell that this was the one, or this is this, you know. I'm a gut feeling in terms of like, I think this is a good thing, and I think that if I like it, other people will like it. In terms of like whether the song's a hit, I'm not one to tell those things.